All right, so this is my review of SH Figuarts Darth Vader from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And he's a new release, and he released in Japan around this past November. So you can still get him, and from those Japanese sites. I don't think it's shipped to the US yet, but I got mine from 1999 Hobby Japan, the English site. And yeah, I actually got mine back in November. So I'm doing the review now, and he cost $70, around 9,900 yen. So that was $70. And then with shipping, it came out to 12,000 yen, which was about $85. So that's how much I paid for him. And as of me filming this, he's still in stock on 1999 Japan. So if I were you and you're into Darth Vader, go get him ASAP. Just stop watching this review. I'll let you know right away. It's an excellent, excellent figure. Completely blows away past SH Figuarts. So just putting it out front. And if you had any doubts, keep watching. But if you don't want to miss this one for a good price, get it from 1999 Japan. Because in the US, yeah, prices skyrocket on import Vaders. Just trust me. Get them now, especially this one. Anyway, so let's go right into aesthetics. And I'll say right away, this one completely blows away all of Figuarts' past Vaders, which were all honestly just kind of not the best. And the big difference here is honestly the fabric. Usually I'm against fabrics. For a character like Darth Vader, it's kind of a must, because that's all he is. Like, he just has fabric up and down. So that really is the selling point for this one. And he looks just absolutely great. It's not like some cheap nylon cape either. It's a very nice, it feels nice. And, you know, I'm not like a expert with the soft materials, but it feels nice. And it's not like cheap. It's not like some see-through crap you might see on like a Marvel Legends or whatever. But it works. So it makes him really look nice, and I like it. So he really does stick out, and obviously makes articulation a breeze, which we'll get into in a minute. But just get a closer look. And I think they nailed the face. And I always like the figure. I like the import Vaders a lot because they usually have a more sleek build. Hasbro always kind of does the best job with the helmets. And in terms of just overall playability, I do like the import Vaders because you could get them in the kind of like better stances. Not so much the Figuarts, but Mayfex, I think, was like kind of the king before this one came out. So aesthetically, he looks amazing. All the like details on his chest, breathing apparatus, his belt, everything is painted. The silver really sticks out, even the red and green looks great. The lines on his kind of suit, his boots, everything, they look great. And, you know, he's just basically black and silver, so not a whole lot that could go wrong paint-wise, and there is nothing that I could just see from a kind of like a look at him that, like, no paint splotches, nothing. Really no way that could happen, but yeah, he looks great. So aesthetics, 5 out of 5. And buffoon that I am, I forgot to do his size, and he is, let's do it like this. He is the tippy top of his helmet, just shy of 6 3/4 inches. So he's big. Yeah, for a Figuarts, he's almost 7 inches, 6 3/4 inches barely. That's huge for a Figuarts, and that's great. So they nailed his size. And in terms of weight, let's take a quick look at his weight too, because yeah, there's people who care about the weight. I'm one of them. Just feels nicer in the hand. 3.03 ounces. So he's got some nice side heft to him. Definitely feels quality. Okay, so let's go straight into articulation. Starting with the head. You can't move the head much, and be careful because I really don't want to snap this chain. And it's Vader anyway, so like his head doesn't really move much. You can move it, but you see that like there's really not a whole lot you could do there. So it does swivel left and right essentially. And you know, he's not like a very articulated character to begin with in terms of his head movement. So you do get that. There's probably some kind of ball joint in there if I had to guess, but you know, it's Vader, so they get a pass on that. And we just move his cape out of the way temporarily. And let's go right into the rest of him. So his shoulders have like an intricate kind of little, this a little bit more. I'm not sure what's going on with the shoulders. I don't know if you can see it. It's something very complicated. You see that little like kind of switch? I'm not sure what that is. It's probably some kind of ball peg with like a switch attached to it, like a lever. It works though, so no complaints. His arms do go up that high. With the shoulder, let me see if I can get the shoulder out a little bit. I'm not gonna mess with that too much, but you could get him up that high. He does have a nice smooth bicep swivel, shockingly for Figuarts. And inside, let me see if I can get you a look inside what's going on here. And you know, this is very hard because he's all black. He does have a nice butterfly joint in there. And I would assume it's some kind of ball peg situation. That's usually what they do inside there. And you know, don't mess around with it too much. But as you can see, that butterfly joint works very well. So you do get good movement out of that, and that's enough for me, honestly. So let's look at his elbows. And you know, be careful with these figures. Like, go easy on them when you first use them. This is still kind of new out of the box. You do get a nice double jointed elbow. Elbow itself looks nice. They'll put that kind of line sculpting in there. Gloves on his wrist. Typical ball peg. You do get good movement out of that. Swivel. Sideways, vertical, swivel, whichever one you choose. Diaphragm is on a very nice, wow, that is impressive for Darth Vader. Like, get back all the way that much, forward that much, you get a nice, oh, that's insane. You get a nice side to side. That's better than most figures that are supposed to be flexible. Darth Vader is usually just kind of like this monolithic character just standing there, but he's got really good movement in the hips. Let's check out his legs. And if you owned any of the past Vader figures, you'd know how garbage the legs were. They use like a very weak ratcheted joint that tends to break. And I'm just talking about the Return of the Jedi figure, which is probably the most recent one they had before this. And I'll tell you right now, they're not doing that with this one. These are nice, smooth joints. And let me see if there's a drop down. Yep, there's a drop down also. I'm not a big fan of drop downs. Honestly, I'd avoid using them just because they don't feel that durable. And one wrong twist, you don't have that added security of that kind of hip joint. So be careful using drop downs in general. They feel like they could break. And I don't really see a like use out of it really. I'm just gonna not use it, but you do have that option. Let's check out his knees. Oh, that looks a little weird. That looks kind of goofy. Could have done that better. Oh, that was really goofy. I mean, it works, but that looks a little silly. Okay, but it works, and I think the issue is kind of like his calf is way too long compared to his thigh. Maybe extended that a little bit, shorten that just a touch, but it works. But it looks a little silly. Still not terrible. I've seen worse knees. So, yeah, he's got a lot going for him, and you could easily get him in a stance. Let's just put him in one right now. It's just flawlessly easy. And good luck trying this with some older Vader figures because it's a nightmare. And actually, almost forgot the ankles. Probably the most important part. Let's see what's going on here. Looks like a ball peg. Looks like a double ball peg actually going into the foot too. And not the greatest ankle rocker. You get a nice swivel. Backwards is pretty good. Not the best. Get a little bit of forward. And barely there ankle rocker. So not the best with the feet. That could have been better, and you do get a toe joint too. And it's not a ridiculous toe joint. It actually looks natural, so that's good. And his legs, they don't really go back much because he has that kind of butt flap there. So that's the most you could go back. So for a Vader figure, honestly, I'd say his articulation's pretty good. And I didn't do anything to this figure. No heating, no oiling, nothing. This is just how he is out of the box. So I consider that a huge win. And in terms of articulation engineering, I'd give him a 4.5 out of 5. Only problem is the ankles could have been better, and his knee joints are kind of ugly. So, and a little bit like those could have just been done a little bit more seamlessly than they did. But other than that, everything else is pretty smooth. So he gets a 4.5 out of 5 in terms of articulation. And let's take a look at the accessories he came with. Now, one of the accessories is already on him. It's a lightsaber on his belt, and that looks great. And let me just give you a closer look at that. It just pegs in there, be careful. Not the strongest little hook right there, so gently take it on and off. But if you want to get a good look at the lightsaber itself, very nice. And it does have that kind of hook attachment you can just kind of latch on. All right. Let's just take all this out. And let's go through these one at a time. Now, okay, so spoiler alerts. If you didn't watch the series, don't look at this accessory. But, I mean, it's obvious. It's Anakin's face with the nice Hayden Christensen sculpt. And let's be real, Hayden Christensen is Darth Vader. And Mayfix did some BS where, even for their episode 3 figure, they decided not to go with Hayden Christensen's face, and that was a decision on their part. And, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that was like just a conscious decision from what I've read on forums and stuff. And that alone made me just not buy that figure, despite how much I like episode 3. Easily my favorite Star Wars film, but this looks insanely good. So they got everything down. Figuarts in the past had trouble with these like detailed faces. This is really Mayfex's kind of domain, but this looks insanely good. They even have the Sith eyes in there and everything. And that looks great. Okay, and you do get an alternate lightsaber. This is just for him to hold, not to put on his belt. So this is primarily what you're probably going to be using. And, if you had any Star Wars figures, you already know how this works. Yeah, you just plug in the lightsaber piece that they give, and done. And you have his lightsaber. Okay. You do get a kind of lightsaber wavy effect. Also, same situation, just plug it in. Okay, now let's take a look at his hands. You do get these kind of like generic open hands / force hands, I guess. So you do get those. You get these kind of handshaking looking hands. I don't know what those are. You do get those too. And honestly, you get a ton of hands here. So and some of them aren't even sure what the difference is, but you have the options. And you get these other kind of alternate hands. Because why not? And I guess these are more relaxed. They're not like in a force pushing motion or anything like that. You get those. And you get the kind of force choke hands. For left and right. So a lot of hands with this one. And You do get the obvious lightsaber holding hands. And last, you get a pair of pointing fingers, left and right. And finally, you got his damaged breathing device. Accessories, nothing really to say. 5 out of 5. It's Darth Vader. You get his lightsabers, you get a battle damaged head, which lets you know it's from the Obi-Wan series, so definitely 5 out of 5. Okay, and in terms of overall value, he gets, I'd say, 4.5. And that's just because, figures nowadays are just a bit too expensive, even at that kind of basic $70, $80 price point. But that's just how the market is right now. So he gets a 4.5 just because I got him for 70 base price on that Japanese site. It's probably going to be harder to get him for that price in the States. And considering that, still 4.5 out of 5 because he's not an anomaly. He's priced at around what you'd expect, and he's pretty big too. He's around 6 3/4 inches, so he's definitely got some size to him. So he's definitely worth it in my opinion. So for an overall rating, he looks great, better than any Darth Vader figure as far as I'm concerned. Easily 5 out of 5. Articulation engineering, he gets a 4.5 out of 5 just because the knees were a little wonky. Angles could be better, but still works very well for a Vader figure. Accessories, 5 out of 5. You get everything you need. And overall value, 4.5 out of 5. Still a bit pricey, but nothing unusual. So that brings him to an overall rating of 4.73. So buy this right away if you're a Darth Vader fan, even remotely, because I think this is the best Vader figure released, period. And that's out of Hasbro, Mayfix, you name it. This is the best. And that's just my opinion, but I wouldn't miss this one. And let's just take a look at scaling. So let's just take a look at a bunch of Star Wars figures. So that's Vader. This is Black Series Qui-Gon. So this Vader is pretty tall. So he actually does scale with Black Series, in my opinion. Qui-Gon is pretty tall too. And he's around 6 3/4 inches. As far as I'm concerned, that's dead accurate to what Vader's actual height is, because I think he's like 6'7" or something. And this one's 6 3/4 inches. So that sounds pretty accurate to me. Here he is with Obi-Wan, and probably the grail in my collection. Here he is against Episode 3, Anakin. And that just looks sick. Putting these two next to each other is just a must for any Star Wars collection. And let me see what else I got here. Here he is with Dooku. And Christopher Lee is tall as hell. I think he's like 6'5" or something, so that makes sense. And Vader is still taller than him also. So that looks great. And finally, if you're interested in seeing how he compares to the Hasbro Vaders, you just move these away. So here he is with the original. I think this is the Episode 4 Vader. Not sure. And he's actually taller. That's might be hard to see with the camera angle, but yeah, this Figuarts Vader is taller. And it wasn't clear what a Vader fanatic I was. Here he is against the carbonized Hasbro Vader. And if there's one thing I learned in life, you never own too many Darth Vader figures. And there you go. So if you like Darth Vader, if you like Star Wars, get this figure. He's He's pretty amazing. So don't hesitate. This is probably the best Vader figure you're going to get. And that's my review. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. And thanks for watching. Take care.